Oh, hello again, everyone. Welcome back. Thanks for visiting once again. And I know it's been a little while since we've looked at the modelling desk. For those of you that are coming back after shall we say, my break and my peregrinations, thanks very much for doing so. As you'll probably know, I play cricket during the summer, and it leaves me less opportunity to sit down and put together bits of plastic. But I'm back to it now. I've also been on my holidays as well, so some of you who keep track of what I do will have seen that, and met some good people when I was over there in Crete near Harnia, and I was also contacted by a Greek gentleman who clearly quite likes to make models, and he very kindly subscribed to my channel, a fellow by the name of Panos. So I'd say a quick hello to him, and hope you're going along well. I didn't get the chance to meet him actually because he's busy this time of year in Crete, because clearly in the summer when the tourists come, people get very busy, and then in the winter when there's less tourists, it's less busy and they have more time to do things. So I didn't get that opportunity, but I did meet a couple of people from Germany, a chap by the name of HP and his wife Marisa, so I'll say a big hello to them as well. But today we're looking at this MRAP, this armoured vehicle, and as you can see from the background here, there's a few things been done, and I'll just take you through this. I've got a convenient and helpful label for my chassis here. Now, as you may remember, the chassis comes in one part, and then you just simply add a load of pieces to it. I've primed this except in that one location just there, which you can see, but never mind, that's okay. It's not going to be seen very easily. So I've put the engine in, and what I'll do is I'll brush finish a goodly amount of this, to be honest with you. I think that's probably going to be the best way of doing it. And what I've then done is made a series of sub-assemblies. So we've got the cabin here, including steering wheel and so on and so forth. So what I'll do is I'll prime all these separately as a little bit of Swearfest there, photo etch. These have gone on sort of okay. As you can see, there is a difference between one and the other. They're supposed to be the same, so I made a bit of a mistake there somehow, which I can't really do anything about, but I'll just leave it. It's, it is what it is. Then we have the cabin here, and what I've decided to do with this, as you can see, is have the back door, one of the back doors open and one of the front doors open. Now what this does is, with the fact that the top section will be open as well, the turret section, it lets a little bit of light in, so that when you have this assembled in this way, and as you can see, because it's Ryefield, it goes together terribly easily. It's going to let a reasonably large amount of light in, so that you can actually see some of the detail. Now these seats will go in the back here, but I'm going to paint them first, and I'm going to paint underneath there, so that that's all fine. But I've masked off the sections where the legs glue in. So I have to put the windows on here, and also the windscreen wipers, but I'll do that a bit later on after the priming and painting. So that's that. We then have the lower section. Now this is an armour sheet, so quite a lot of these, shall we say, non-armoured vehicles are vulnerable to explosive devices planted in the ground. This is a way of preventing that from happening. So there are some bits to add on. This is a foot plate here, but as you can see, if we zero right in, there's a little bit of the old photo etch there, which you have to have your wits about you to put in, but that's now in. Hopefully that doesn't, actually, yeah, that's curved a tiny tad, but it should be okay. But as you can see, that doesn't look too bad there, and that sits onto the underside of the, just zero out a little bit, shall we? That sits onto the underside here, I think that way round, and as you can see, that butts up to there, and then this bit sections in here. Trying to remember how this went. I had this in easily when I test fitted it earlier. There we go. That's how it sits in, and there are some sections that it slots onto that you can glue in after you've done, and that sits in, as you can see, that sits in reasonably firmly, and then our cabin fits on top, and again there are sections, there are 4 little pips there that you can drop these onto, and that then sits in like pretty much like that. Let's just have a quick look, see if we can get that properly on. Where are the pips? There they are, there we go. So that sits on like that. It looks to me, oh there we go, look, as you can see. Oh no, yeah, that hasn't worked very well at all there. I don't quite, oh see, that's I see what's happened there. Okay, so that's not quite in the right place, but it sits on there, so we'll have to be careful. I may actually video this because there are some things to look out for here. One point to make about this is that if I get my little poker here, this I think is a plenum chamber. I'm just going to zero in on this so that you can see this. This is a plenum chamber, and when this cabin is properly fitted here, this cabin, this pipe here should sit onto that section there, and of course mine is not going to. Now I'm not quite sure how that managed to happen, but when you assemble this part of the engine here, it's a good idea to make certain that you get these two things in line, because if you want to have the bonnet open, and curses, I just moved all those things I carefully set up. Haha, there we are. Once you, as I say, once you set that up, if you want to have the bonnet open, then this is going to look a bit odd. So I'm going to have the bonnet shut, which is not the best, not the best option, to be honest with you. Let's zero back out again. It's not the best option, but it's the only option I have. So let's see if we can get that into its spot there. There we go, look. That's in its correct spot, and as you can see, it's actually quite a long way out. So that's one thing to look out for. Everything else actually fits in absolutely perfectly, and very easily there. And then the bonnet then sits on here. There are 2 little spigots here that you fit onto, just onto the bumper here, and that then fits straight in there like that. As you can see, it's dead easy. The whole thing should just really drop together, you know, with the greatest of ease. Do be careful with these mirrors. I think they're going to get knocked off terribly easily. So that's that bit. Then you've got this section that goes in at the back, that sits on the back just there like that, and this I think sits over the top of it in that fashion like that, and then onto the back. There you go, that sits on like that. As you can see, it just all drops together. So once I've done all these sub-assemblies and painted them and so on, then it'll be a question of just doing assembly. And I've chosen these paints from MRAP. I don't know quite how you say that, but there we are, MRAP we'll call it. So I've got a desert tan and then a slightly lighter colour which I'm going to use. So what I shall do with that is we'll paint desert tan on the outside, and on areas, for example, like these little parts here, you can then highlight these areas, and this adds an optical shall we say, an optical effect that makes the thing look less uniform. So that's sort of thing we're going to try and do, and you can sort of see this down, you'll be able to see that down here as well, and I'll show you a technique for doing that, which is really pretty straightforward, and you've probably worked that out for yourself anyway. So let's move along. I'm going to do the next set of sub-assemblies, which is this turret mounting here. Now this is the turret here, and that sits onto the top of there like that, but we have a load of tiny parts to put in and put together. So that's the machine gun and the lights and various other bits and pieces. So there are 2 machine guns. There's a heavy machine gun and a light machine gun. So you can see the heavy there is a 50 cal. I suspect this is a, I don't know, a 7.62 or a 5.56, I don't know which, but these appear to sit on the top of the thing, shall we say, more or less together. So it's quite an interesting little section of doings. And what I've done here is essentially I've pulled all these parts off the sprue, clean them up and just made ready for some assembly. So we'll just get on with that, shall we? I think that's probably the thing to do. So most of this I suspect we'll be doing underneath the magnifier. So we'll zero in on the magnifier here, and that should give us some opportunity to... I'm just going to move this slightly so that we get this more centrally located. Oh, I see. I think I know what's going on here. So we'll get that more centrally located, and then we can see what it is we're up to here. That should be okay. Let's just zero out a little bit here, see if we can get the focus to come in. Yeah, hopefully that's all right. So we'll be coming in and out here, but I mean, essentially what we have is these little sections, and we'll just drop them up together. So let's get on with that, shall we? So that section looks like that, and then this fits in. Can you see? Yes, I think you can just about see that. Let's just move that so that you can in fact see it. There are little pips on the on this side here, as you can see, and these pips just sit in to those little holes. We'll just plonk them in together. Yep, there we go. And it being Ryefield, I'll just push them apart now. I just got them together, and now so I need to go back to square one again. I don't know if you know the expression back to square one, what the origin of it is. It originates from the 1950s of football being commentated on the radio. And they had a little diagram that was in the Radio Times in the UK, and the football enthusiast, shall we call them that? Yes, let's call them that, shall we? Was able to refer to the diagram, which had a number of squares on it, which had numbers from 1 to I think 20 or something, or 22 or something of that kind. When the ball was kicked back to the goalkeeper, it was back to square one. So that allowed people to get themselves into a position where they knew what was going on there and who was doing what where. So I'm going to try and just assemble these. Anyway, there's a little bit of, shall we call it, trivia for you. It is trivia, isn't it? I mean, because it is utterly trivial. I think what we'll do with that is we'll drop that in first, and then put that in afterwards. That's how that all goes in, like that. So we'll just need a very small tweezer here just to have that up together. I think what we'll do is we'll glue that now. And hopefully then we can get all that in the right place. That looks okay to me, so we can just squeeze that together and add a little bit more glue there. Make sure we're in the right orientation. That looks okay. So that's that bit done. So we've got that there. So this is the next part, and that, no, that's not the next part at all. What am I talking about? Oh, I've now lost the bit I was looking for, because that was you saw what happened earlier on, and that was my special doodah rolled across. Okay, so yeah, I know what's happened there. So we'll put that down for a second, and we then need to go to the next part here, which is, if I just shift this up a little bit, I'll just show you that by putting this down here like this, which is this bit here. So this bit section creates that, and then that section fits onto this assembled section like this. So that will be the next thing that we do, and we'll now return to a better lit situation, shall we, because otherwise we're going to find ourselves in difficulty. So what I will then do is we'll take this section here, and we have to add some bits and bobs onto it, and that's the first part. So what I'll do is I'll add these. It's not quite gone on properly. What's going on there? Oh, I know what's going on, because it doesn't actually fit on properly. So there are nuts and bolts underneath this which create a standoff. So what we'll have to do then is we'll just glue that in there, just quickly and quietly. Leave it for a couple of seconds. We don't need to use quick setting extra thin or anything like that. We can just use the standard green cap stuff. So that's that. We then need C38 that sits into have I done that right? Yes, I have done that correctly. Oops. What I have done there is I have knocked off a securing pip, so you have to be careful when you do your cleanup that you don't knock off the securing pips. So that sits in there like that. Right, where's my C42? Seems to have disappeared. Where's my C42? Where that's gone. Let's go for another part anyway. Let's put C40. Oh no, that is C42 there. There it is. They're so small, these parts, and my eyes aren't particularly good. So this section is C42, and that sits into there like that. And again, it's on a bit of a standoff. So let's see if we can zero right in on that. You can see they're stood off just a little bit. So what we can do is then we can glue that in there. So as we can also see, this section here is not quite at 90 degrees where it needs to be, so parallel. So there we go, we've done that now. So that's what that should look like. You can see how detailed all of this is. It's really very nice. And then we've got this little C44 Johnson here, and that's this thing here. So you can see that. So that needs to go round that way, like that. And then I'll just take this very gently. We have to be very gentle with these things, because otherwise they'll float off into the middle distance and we'll be forever searching for them and find out where that goes. And that sits into that slot there. I'm not going to be able to put that in there very easily, so we'll have to use our hands to do this. That's where that sits in there. Oh, there goes the dog. There we go, that's gone in perfectly. Just dab a little glue in there. So those brushes on these things seem to have got a bit larger. I don't know what you think about these new glue pots or these newer ones, but my last glue pot was about 4 years old and the brush seemed to be about, well, really quite small. So that's that. So those are those four components there. So if we then orientate this after that fashion, like that, this section here, which is now pretty much dried, sits into there like that. it would appear. And we can then just dab a little bit of glue in there and onto the top. See if we can get this all to slot together, which it appears to have done. Now we have a piece of photo etch to put in as well, which is Y36. So what we'll do is we'll zero out here and pick that up there and fetch out our bit of photo etch. Find our I need to get the magnifier out here and find Y36. There it is, Y36 is just there. So what I now need is my metal files and my photo etch scissors, which is what I use for these things now. Oh, I've got to be careful with that. Seems to be easier to get these things off with photo etch scissors rather than, there we go. So we'll just put that over there a minute on a flat surface. I can pack that away a little bit later, and then we can just have a look at that. So with this, there's a little bit of cleanup to do, so I'll just very quickly, you can't see very much of what I'm doing here, but I'm using a metal file really very gently, and just pulling that burr off there. And just about got that. I keep moving the mirror. It's not the mirror, the lens, you know, the magnifier. So the two sections that we need to look at there are, in fact, it would appear, I think, up here and then down there. Damn it. So, yes, there we go. So this piece of photo etch is the wrong way round to start with and needs to be bent upwards at a bit of an angle. So what I'm going to try and do here is see if I can find a section of my tweezer that will allow me to just make a slight bend here. I'll just use my nail. And then we can that's how it goes on. So we'll just put that down there and put this right next to it in case we lose it, and I'll fetch out some thin Loctite. Sorry about the old lack of focus here for a minute. I'm just getting glue out here, and I'll get my glue bodger, which I just use for bodging glue, and we'll drop a little bit on there and a little bit on there. I'll just drop that over there a minute, and what we'll then do is gently drop that onto there like that. There we go. Ah, there. So I think we're about there. Is that in focus? That's sort of in focus, isn't it? I think some of this has not been focused properly. See, this mirror here, this one that I'm just jiggling right now, is not quite. It's not quite in the right place. It's not in the right angle for you to properly see, and I think that's what causes the focusing problem. So that's that bit done. So we've done A12. The next section is A13, which is this little section here. Hang on a minute. Oh, that's better. Ah, so that actually has some sprue nibs on them. I'll get rid of those. I thought I'd got rid of all these, but clearly not. So I'm going to have to do a quick clean up here. I do not recommend this method, so don't do it at home, children, or those who are cunningly disguised as children, like me, of course. There we go. Right, so first bit, that is that, and that. Aha, yeah, that fits in after that fashion. So that just butts up from there into that little slot there, which does mean that what I'm going to do now is just add a little bit of glue on that, and then drop them together if they will assist me, and they will. So we need to make certain that we get that butted up correctly, and this section here is going in there. Oh, hell's teeth. Well, I would have been more sensible to put this little Johnson on first. I think you're all out there in modelling land saying, now look here, Zinner's old boy, you've made a bit of a balls up of that. Oh, and it's made your job more bloody difficult, old chap. Ah, I can see why there's a problem there. Can you see it? Yes, you can. There is. There was a little sprue nib on that. Right. Let's see if we can get that to go back in the right place now. So that goes in, so that little pin goes in there. And amazingly, when you get the old sprue nib out of the way, it all goes together beautifully. So, well, there we go. Is that in the right place? Hopefully it is. It's not dried yet, but and then we've got this little tiny thing that goes, it would appear, I see where that goes. So we've got this little tiny thing that goes in this little spot here, and it's that, and it is really quite small, so that goes in there. So what we'll do is the same drill as before. We'll drop a little lot of glue on there, and then hang on, I've made a mess less of that and drop that in like that. That hasn't worked. Now why hasn't that? Ah, there we go. There we go. So what we'll then do is I'm just going to squeeze that slightly, but gently but firmly. There we go. Now, so that's that bit done. Now I've got A14. We've got to put two bits together here, and these should fit together fairly easily, it says here. What have we got here? Is that a sprue nib there? That looks like a sprue nib. I think it is. So let's have a look, see what the instructions show us there. So that goes back there, that goes at the front there. Yeah, these are sprue nibs. I haven't cleaned these up properly at all. Don't quite know how I've managed to do that. There we go, not to worry. And I've undercut that, so I have to be careful with this. And I've undercut that as well. So it's all live, so if I make a mistake then you see it happening as it happens, as it were. So those two fit together like that. There's a gap there, so I know why that is, and we can all tell that, can't we, everybody? The dog is barking at people who dare walk by, bless them, and he gets very angry at them people. Foul intruders, he calls them. I'm sure that you know that. So, and he's come in now because he's wanting to know what on earth I'm up to, why I've spent so much time up here, and we are 32 minutes in. That looks a little better. I'm just going to go with this anyway. Just drop that together. I'm going to give it a squeeze with some tweezers. And you might be thinking I'm being a little slapdash here, and I suppose you could argue that I am, but I'm not trying to be. Tell me in the comments what you think, if you're still here, because I may be talking unto myself, eh? So that seems to fit in there. I'm not quite sure exactly how it fits in. C23, let's do the simple bits first, shall we? So C23. I don't know how that bit, oh no, hang on a minute, that's how that fits in, it would appear. No, I'm not clear on exactly how that, ah yes, there we go. It's easy when you it's easy when you know, isn't it? That sits onto there like that. You see it I just got the thing onto its correct position, and then there we go. There we go, right, that's better. you get a little bit of adhesive on there, you can then glue it in. And right, now there's a little cup thing here. I'm not quite sure how that fits on. Doesn't appear to have too much. Doesn't appear to give too much purchase, but it does appear to fit sort of up here somewhere. Tell you what, I'm going to leave that off for now. We'll turn that the other way up, and then we can put this section in here like that. That just fits straight on. And then this section, wherever that goes, that seems to go in there. Nope. There we go. Yes, that's exactly what it does. So we'll just tweeze them in, and then we'll call it a day, shall we? See, that just slots straight in there. So what we'll do with that is we'll glue them in. So what we now have is move that away and just zero in a little bit more. So we have these three sections now. 1, 2, 3. I'll zero out a bit so you can see them. Just taken us about 35 minutes to do, and then we've got this other tiny section here which goes somewhere in there. So I'm going to put that in later when it comes to actually assembling all the rest of these bits and bobs. We have section 21 in the instructions to do now, but I'm going to put them down there for a minute and leave them there and just shift you across to section 21. So there are still some other bits and bobs to put together, but at that point, at this stage, then we're into the realms of assembling. Let's put that over there. We should be doing some good housekeeping, shouldn't we, really? We're then into the A12, which was this part, and then A13, which was this part, and then A14, which was this part with its little tray, and we can find out where the tray fits in. And then we've got to put these three sections together to form that, and then we're doing C18 and C17 in exactly the same way as we did these before, as you recall. And then we're nearly there to putting machine guns in and so on and so forth. There's an ammunition box there as well to drop in. But so that's where we are, carrying on, and I hope that you had a nice time looking at that today. I had a nice time doing it, so we'll zero out again. What we'll do is I'll catch up with you a lot sooner next time with perhaps another project start at some stage, but we'll finish this beastie off, and I shall put it on my record player just like everybody else does, and you can see it when it's completed. So thanks very much for visiting, everyone. Thank you for coming back again after the end of the cricket season. You're all most welcome, and hope to see you on the next one. Take care, everyone. Bye for now.